Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Are You a Fan? If you like this episode, give us a like, share, follow, and this week, we're bringing on a special guest and an expert on the character that we're dealing with. Well, an expert on what this character does to people. This week, we're discussing Bane, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, Caitlin.
Hello, everyone. I am an expert exclusively in breaking your back, so that's what I hope to bring to the table for you guys today.
Okay, so we always start these out by kind of discussing the character first. What do you know about Bane from DC Comics?
I know he breaks Batman's back. I know he has a weird mask. I know he's very large. So not a lot. I'm hoping that you learn me some things today.
Okay. As far as what I know, I will say the research was funny because I know this character's backstory. I've read his comics so thoroughly that I'm just like doing the research. I'm like, I swear, if they do not mention the teddy bear, I'm going to lose it. And they're like, he had a teddy bear. I'm like, okay, cool. They mentioned the teddy bear. This is a good source. So let's get on into it. First, we're going to discuss Real World. So Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan created the character for Nightfall storyline. They developed the concept of Bane after an initial idea by Batman editor Dennis O'Neil. So, kind of piggybacking on somebody else's. So take us away. And
yeah. So O'Neil had previously created Bane's birthplace of Santa Prisca in The Question and the drug Venom in the storyline of the same name. That was published in the pages of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, number 16 through 20, and later reprinted as a trade paperback.
Heck yeah, Santa Prisca.
Fancy. Gotta roll your R in that.
I mean, I am Hispanic and was raised around Spanish speakers, so I can do a little bit. So in the pages of Azrael, O'Neil introduced Bane's perception of Venom as both an addiction and a weakness responsible for his early defeats. Yeah, the Venom is, it's a real video game weakness that we will get into at some point. Like, you just cut that thing and he is immediate withdrawal.
So I read. Bane is a supervillain appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics. Bane is usually depicted as a dangerous adversary of the superhero Batman and belongs in the collective of enemies that made up Batman's rogue gallery.
Yeah, so there's not really a lot real world wise. I can see the inspirations with the design of the character. Like, that was one thing, like, in the Christopher Nolan Batman verse, they're like, let's give him a crab face. I'm like, that's a luchador mask. It's a literal, like, why did we take this character?
I mean, that's an interpretation of one, I sure suppose.
Yep. They were like, hey, we're going to cast a white dude, and we're also going to have the prison in a very brown populated area. I'm like, wow, we went out of our way to not cast a brown guy.
Sure did.
Okay, so let's get into universe. So in universe, Bane's origin story is established in the storyline Gutenberg. His father, Edmund Dorrance, better known as King Snake, had been a revolutionary who had escaped Santa Prisca court system.
In this next point that I'm about to read, you told me about, and it makes me insane because of the logic behind it. Can never get over it. So the corrupt government decreed that his son would serve out the man's life sentence, and so then Bane just spent his childhood and early adult life in prison. Yeah. And that's never not funny to me.
I love it because in the research I did, the whole premise is like they're trying to, in the comic, to portray Santa Prisca as such a corrupt system.
I mean, that'll do it.
Yeah, they're like, what could make these people seem like monsters? Well, why don't we have them put a child in prisoner in place of the father?
And that stands to reason.
Right? Like, how young is the child? Like, I'd say freshly born. Like, he can walk.
Like, he
can technically walk.
Fresh.
Yeah, he's like fresh. So that's also why, like, some people debate, like, is Bane autistic or is he like those kids you heard about who were like raised there? Yeah. Bane always smells like wet socks. So although he was imprisoned, his natural abilities allowed him to develop extraordinary skills within the prison's walls. And Bane is a very intelligent character, and that we will be getting into. That's take us away on the next.
So for 17 years, the child that would grow up to be Bane spent his entire life inside a chamber connected to the ocean within the prison, spending every day in secluded boredom and every night swimming for his life to stay afloat when the tide would come in and fill his cell. And when I read that earlier, I was like, that is why he's jacked. I didn't even think about prison gym. I was like, could you imagine just paddling?
Yeah, every night. Sleeping in the day and just trying to just like wade water at night.
And I'm sure there's a joke in there about falling asleep to ocean sounds, but I'm not quite keen on where it is.
Oh, yes. So he read as many books as he could get his hands on. Spent most of his spare time bodybuilding in the prison's gym. He developed his own form of meditation and learned to fight in the merciless school of prison life. I mean, dude, he is forged to survive.
Oh, for sure. Because of the cultural and supposed geographical location of Santa Prisca, Bane knew how to speak English, Spanish, Portuguese, Farsi, Urdu, and Latin. So that's like a couple languages. It's pretty...
Oh, yeah.
The Latin thing really gets me because it's not really spoken, but I mean, it's a good thing to know how to read.
Exactly. And the character, like I said, the character is like insanely intelligent, which is why, as much as I hate the portrayal of him in Christopher Nolan's verse, I'm like, it's the most accurate we've gotten.
Like, he listens to classical music for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Also, apparently he's a fan of soccer in some of the cartoons. So despite his circumstances, he found teachers of various sorts during his incarceration, ranging from hardened convicts to an elderly Jesuit priest, under whose tutelage he apparently received a classical education. Which, cool. Like, there are people that, like, especially in this corrupt system, it's like, you guarantee there's probably some, like, people in there that don't deserve to be there. Like,
for sure. Like a kid.
Yeah. Like a child, maybe.
But, I guess maybe from growing up in prison, he committed his first murder at the age of 8, which, okay, maybe it's a good thing they put him in there. Stabbing a criminal who wanted to use him to gain information about the prison, which I guess fair, but also I just like, you don't stab people, I think.
I mean, I don't know, like, this is prison rule, and clearly this isn't
prison rules.
Yeah, like also clearly this isn't our modern day prison. Clearly,
yeah,
and that this isn't a prison where the guards are gonna step in and be like, "Hey, maybe don't hassle the child that we've locked in here."
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
I think the fact that they locked a child in there, I'm like, the regular rules are out the window. That kid's gonna have to kill to survive.
Yes.
So during his years in prison, Bane carried a teddy bear he called Osito, little bear in Spanish, whom he considered his only friend. It is revealed that Osito has a hole in his back to hold a knife that Bane used to defend himself.
I love how that goes from like, aw, he does have a soft side to, oh, no, knife bear. Like,
right?
Just
straight up carrying the bear around, hold just like hand in the hole, just like, anybody comes at me, Osito, protect me.
Knife bear. So to make matters worse, Bane is tortured by a monstrous, terrifying bat creature that appears in his dreams, thus giving him an intense fear of bats, which ends up not working out so great for a dude named Bruce Wayne later on.
Yeah, it's kind of the whole reason he looked that direction. He's like, this is the manifestation of my fears. I will break the bat. So he ultimately established himself as the king of Pena Duro prison and became known as Bane. The prison's controllers took note and eventually forced him to become a test subject for a mysterious drug known as venom, which had killed all other subjects. So, that's cool.
Do you know why it like didn't kill him? Like why it worked? Is he just built different or like...
I mean, arguably built different, but also from what I know of the comics, there have been so many experiments. I'm sure they tweaked it before they gave it to him.
For sure.
Like after the last one died, they're like, okay, so I think we put too much battery acid in it this time.
Fair. That's fair.
Less battery acid, more herbs.
Fair. Okay. The Peñadero prison venom experiment nearly killed Bane at first, but he survived and found that the drug vastly increased his physical strength, although he needed to take it every 12 hours via the system of tubes pumped directly into his brain, so the face crab, or he will suffer debilitating side effects. Which I just found that I didn't know they had used venom on him. So that's something new that I learned. I was like, oh, okay.
Like literally that was also my big argument in the movies. I'm like, you took the most realistic character and you couldn't even be like, oh, he's on experimental government steroids. That's why we got this actor to play him, because this actor is built like he's on experimental government steroids. So Bane escapes Peñadera along with several accomplices based on the Fabulous Five. His minions, Trog, Zombie, and Angel Valanga, Bird, all of whom are named after 1960s rock bands. The Trogs, the Zombies, and the Birds, which that's kind of cool. And they are designed to mimic three of Doc Savage's assistants, Monk, Ham, and Rennie. So, and I do love like when he escapes, because I remember reading the comics, like he basically faked his death in the comics to escape. Like they threw his body out. He was like, I'm just gonna slow my heart rate down and get out of here.
Because that's a thing that people can do. Like
it happens.
Although he came up with his own form of meditation, so maybe he's
I'm sure he probably met some ex-military people that are like, this is how you get them to stop torturing you for a bit.
Fair enough. Bane would return and take over the prison and country, donning his iconic luchador mask.
Yeah, so basically that group he escaped with, he also comes back, and he takes over. He turns that country. He does what every drug lord wants to do. He actually takes over the country. He's like, no, I'm ruler here, and that I own this. And he, starts selling venom. His ambitions turned destroying Batman, however, about whom he had heard stories from Bird.
And I can imagine if you were haunted by visions of a monstrous bat in your childhood, and they're like, you heard of this dude who dresses up like a bat and just beats the crap out of bad guys? I would also be pretty freaked out and probably want to
I'm going to kill that man.
Yes, for sure.
That man is literally me of my existence.
God put him here so I could break his back. Gotham City fascinates Bane because, like Peñadero, fear rules Gotham, but it is the fear of Batman. Bane is convinced that Batman is a personification of the demonic bat which had haunted his dreams since childhood. Therefore, Bane believes fate placed Batman on a collision course with him, which, is kind of romantic when you think about it.
A little bit.
They're like soulmates.
And honestly, and this, I didn't really put this in here because this is way later down the line. There is a few comics later down the line where Bane thinks he might be Batman, like Bruce Wayne's brother.
I could see.
Because, he finds out, his dad might not be his dad, and at the same, Bruce Wayne's father was in that country at a certain time, and Bruce Wayne don't like to talk about it. His father wasn't exactly the best guy.
I mean, the guy had a lot of money, so just gonna assume.
Exactly. So, they're like, oh, I think we might be related. Bane and Batman's whole story is amazing. I think it's better than the Joker and Batman, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So during the Nightfall storyline, Bane wanted Batman reduced to his weakest physical and psychological state. He uses stolen munitions to destroy the walls of Arkham Asylum, allowing its deranged inmates, including the Joker, Two-Face, Riddler, Scarecrow, Mad Hatter, the Ventress, Firefly, Poison Ivy, Cornelius Stirk, Film Freak, and Victor Zsasz to escape into Gotham City. Which this is where Bane is so intelligent. He's immediately off the bat, he looks at Batman. He's like, this guy could theoretically beat me. I'm not gonna give him the chance.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, kind of stack the deck against him and
exactly. Bane's strategical is amazing strategist when it comes to fighting.
So during this time, Bane murdered Film Freak, who acted as the Mad Hatter's mind-controlled assassin, kidnapped and unsuccessfully interrogated Robin, who was spying on him, and had a bloody rematch with Killer Croc, which ended in a stalemate as they were washed out of the sewer.
Later down the line, they do fight each other again, and Bane straight up breaks his arms.
He's really good at breaking bones,
Yeah.
I'm finding. Just
Like, yeah, he is the breaker.
should have been a surgeon.
So consequently, Batman is forced to recapture the escapees, a mission that takes him 3 months and drives him to the brink of mental and physical collapse.
I wondered which would break first.
Your body or your spirit? Well, what broke for you first, Caitlin?
Well, you know, it's mostly the L1 kind of deal. So, exhausted, Batman returns to his home in Wayne Manor, only to find Bane is waiting for him. Bane attacks Batman and beats him nearly to death and delivers a brutal final blow in which he raises Batman up and breaks him over one knee, leaving him a paraplegic. Bane thus becomes the only man to have broken the bat.
That guy straight up broke my back.
back.
And I love the because during this time too, what they didn't really bring up in the research, but it shows in the comics, is when he lets those escapees out, he starts monitoring all the rich people in Gotham because he's trying to figure out which one of these guys is Batman, and he starts to hone in on Bruce because he's like, this guy keeps disappearing while Batman's active. And this guy's starting to look tired at all the things like where he has to appear. He literally deduces who Batman is. That was the main premise of him letting everybody out. Was he's like, this will show me who Batman is.
Who's staying? Yeah, no, that totally makes sense now that that I think about it.
Yeah, which is an amazing strategy. It's also why like Bane's one of the first characters besides Alfred to discover who Batman is. I bring up besides Alfred because those of you who don't know, go check out our Batman Golden Age episode. Alfred wasn't originally the butler of the Waynes. So while Bane establishes himself as the new ruler of Gotham's criminal underworld, Bruce Wayne passes the mantle of Batman to Jean-Paul Vallée, also known as Azrael. And Batman's not great at passing the torch. Every person he's tried to pass the torch to turns like insane instantly. I'm like, Batman, not everybody has your tragic backstory.
Takes a lot. It takes a lot to make a bat. Ignoring Bruce's warnings to stay away from Bane, Azrael attempts to confront the villain in his penthouse suite. Bane is able to get the upper hand in the fight after using venom and taunting Azrael, making him angry enough to lose focus and thus give Bane the opportunity to beat him. Nevertheless, Bane sustains deep lacerations in the battle and loses a great deal of blood. You got to keep that stuff on the inside, or so I've been told.
Right? And it's one of those like, Batman told you to avoid this guy because this guy literally broke Batman's back. You think you're better than Batman? You think you're better than me?
You think you're better than me? I have this card. It's my permission slip. It just says, because I'm Batman.
Exactly. So, unable to go to the hospital, Bane increases his venom intake to temporarily block the pain and buy himself time to defeat the new Batman. A humiliated Azrael returns to the Batcave and builds an advanced combat suit of metal in place of the traditional Batsuit, with many chambers within the suit that fire razor-sharp weapons.
Jesus.
Yeah, this guy, like Batman's whole policy is don't kill. That's like the one thing he's got going for him. No matter how horrific no matter the villain and that, when people are like, I mean, you should kill
probably
that.
just kill
probably
that guy.
Kill that guy. Batman's like, I can't, because I'll snap.
That's so stupid. I mean, good on him for having a set of morals, but
yeah. So, but basically, as like, I also wonder, like, where was Bruce Wayne during this building of a giant mech suit? Like, did nobody at some point just be like, there's a lot of drilling and welding noises coming from the Batcave. Should we go check on the new guy?
Nah, they're renovating, putting in granite countertops. You know,
it's like, let him make him feel. I told him to make it feel like home.
Oh gosh. Reduced to little more than a wounded animal fleeing for survival, Bane is no match against the new Batman. Bane is finally defeated when Azrael severs the tubes that pump venom into his bloodstream, causing severe withdrawal. Which makes me, I don't know why that point made me sad. I was like, he just needed to have an intervention and he probably would have been okay.
I will say that's probably it's one of those, I get when you first encounter Bane, you don't think hey, what's that thing in the back of his skull and that, but after Batman realizes that, every encounter with Bane goes the equivalent of I'm Bane, I'm venomed up, and Batman's I have razor blades that I
have a pair of scissors, dog.
I have a pair of scissors, and that's how he beats him every time. Is he's just I'm just gonna cut that tube and watch you lose your mind for 5 minutes. Here's some pills or whatever.
A little bit of a Achilles heel,
right? So Commissioner James Gordon, Harvey Bullock, and Robin watch in horror as this new Batman tortures a defeated Bane who begs his adversary to kill him. Azrael denies his innate urge to kill Bane, however, and leaves him humiliated and broken physically and mentally for the police to arrest. Yeah, this is not Batman.
Yeah, no.
Not the real Batman, everybody makes fun of Batman will snap your fingers to get information. Well, yeah, but also after you're defeated or got the information, he's not going to stay there.
Yeah, that horse is dead. Please quit beating it. That's rather rude.
Yeah, Azrael kind of went crazy with power.
So, further following the events of Nightfall, Bane recovers from his venom addiction, good for him, while serving time in the Blackgate prison. He rebuilt its body to its peak and eventually escapes from prison and returns to Gotham. And just, good for him.
Oh yeah.
Good for her.
There are multiple times down the line where Bane basically works with different groups, and his whole thing is he stops using venom at a certain point because he also considers it a crutch. He's it made me weak and that I can be physically strong myself, but he always does keep a little bit of venom he keeps a concentrated dose on him to basically, in a moment of if there's ever a moment where it's oh, we're all gonna die if I don't just rage out on these guys.
That's fair. I almost looked at that as how when you quit smoking and you just keep one,
I feel
and you're I'm less likely to.
I feel that's gotta be part of it.
Yeah.
That can't, I'm
knowing that you have access to it doesn't make you, be I guess I don't have to get desperate or anything because I always have a little bit if I want some.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
So here, so after the whole, he gets out Blackgate, Azazel or whatever, the Azrael basically takes over. He's like, you're no longer the Bat, Bruce. I'm the Bat. I'm in charge. I'm king now. So when he gets out, he basically fights alongside the original Batman, who has by now recovered and taken his mantle back from Azrael to take out a criminal ring that is distributing venom, venom derivative to street-level thugs. Which is one of those, when you're the kingpin of that drug and you find out somebody's selling a lesser product, you gotta handle that.
Yeah.
And I feel this also shows Bane is become more of an anti-hero in recent years. And
yeah.
Especially he's willing to work with Batman. Ultimately, that's why Batman doesn't just go overthrow him in his country.
Which is fair. It sounds like I said, he's getting clean. He's turning over a new leaf. I love this. Just gotta get him a hobby and he'll be good to go. Following a victory over the criminals and the revelation that behind it is the same doctor that performed the surgery on Bane years earlier in Peñaduro, Bane proclaims that he is innocent of his past crimes and urges Batman to stop hunting him. He then leaves Gotham without fighting Batman to begin a search for his unknown father. This is kind of touching. This is a Lifetime movie. I like it.
Like I said, I love Bane. Bane's a solid character, and he's a real sympathetic character.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you really just be that guy is a messed up criminal when you find out oh wait, he was imprisoned as a child.
His baby, wee little babe.
Like, what did he do? It's like, oh, he didn't do anything. His
Side note, imagine how cute that tiny little jumpsuit is.
Little Bane. Oh my God, if I ever have a kid.
Oh no.
That's going to be a costume for them. Okay, so Bane's searching brings him back to Santa Prisca in search of leads. Bane questions the Jesuit priest who had taught him while he was in Pinadura. The priest explains that there were 4 men who could possibly have been his father, a Santa Prisca's revolutionary, an American doctor, an English mercenary, and a Swiss banker. So the American doctor, that's where later on you find out that's
Might
Bruce's
be.
father.
Okay.
Because his father's a doctor. And that, like...
Was.
Not wrong. Accurate. But yeah, so that's kind of how he fit. There's a shoot-off comic where he's like, we might be brothers. Like, we should put our past sins behind us. And it's a sweet story, honestly.
It kind of sounds like it. So while searching for the Swiss man in Rome, Bane encounters Talia al Ghul and the League of Assassins, and eventually impresses Ra's al Ghul so much that he chooses Bane to marry Talia and become his heir.
That's one of those things, like, I can tell the movies tried to take aspects from the comics, but they just kept falling short. And I will say, like, even though Ra's al Ghul is always impressed by Bane, he considers Nightwing more impressive in the sense, like, Bane is very intelligent, but Bane is a square. Like, in the sense, like, playing chess, like, there's a scene where him and Ra's al Ghul play chess, and Ra's al Ghul's like, you're very intelligent, you know all the moves, but you have no improv skills at all. That's why I'll beat you every time. And that's like, yeah, you can follow these winning moves directly, but I can upset those winning moves, and you have no way of recovering.
I mean, that's a good way of putting it.
So, Ra's al Ghul has discovered Bane's father's identity, but did not reveal this information to him. As Ra's al Ghul does. Ra's al Ghul's a manipulator. He is. We'll do an episode on him one of these days. He's a straight-up gaslighter. So Ra's al Ghul then launches a plague attack on Gotham in the Legacy storyline, with Bane at his side, who is posing as Ra's al Ghul's henchman, Ubu. Ra's al Ghul always has a big henchman named Ubu. It's weird. So Batman gets his rematch with Bane in Detective Comics issue number 701 and finally defeats him in single combat. Disappointed by his protege's failure, Ra's al Ghul calls off the engagement to Talia and disowns Bane.
That's sad.
It is. And I'm trying to remember, because I can't remember if it's her daughter or if it's another child of Ra's al Ghul, but Bane does form a relationship with one of the Ra's al Ghuls. And it's a weird one because it's like, everybody's like, is it sexual? And it's like, no, he's just like considers himself her big protector. And it's kind of sweet, actually.
I like it. Bane is kind of growing on me. In Infinite Crisis number 7, Bane fights alongside the villains during the Battle of Metropolis. During the battle, he breaks the back of the hero judo master, killing him. No reason was given for his actions in number 7, though in Infinite Crisis Collector's Edition, one of the many changes made to the original series was Bane saying, I finally know who I am. I am Bane. I break people. In parentheses, his backs.
Which is
why do I get all the Baroque and back points? Feels like a setup.
I'm like, wow, that actually worked out really nice.
So glad that I got in that wreck for the bit.
I will say there is a comic series where Bane's basically kind of part of not the Suicide Squad, but it's like a group of vigilante, like we murder people, but we're like trying to do good. And Bane becomes part of that group. And at one point they get attacked by like a bunch of like supervillains and assassins, and Bane, that's when he injects that concentrated venom and just loses his mind. And at one point, as he's just throwing these meat sacks around and just slapping them on the ground like wet sand, he's just screaming, I'm the one who broke the bat. I broke the bat. And which Ra's al Ghul's child or offspring or whatever just like turns to somebody. He's like, I think the bat also broke him. Like, basically.
A little bit.
Like, he may have broken the bat, but the bat broke him.
Wee bit.
Yeah. So, yeah, Bane's an interesting character. There's even, like, I love his side stories. There's one where they set him up with, like, this redhead for a date. And he's just, they're like, you need to get out there. You need a date. And he's like, I don't know about that. Like, how's this, like, beneficial to us? Like, moving forward as a group. And they're like, you need to, like, loosen up.
We gotta get you a hobby or something, dog.
Basically, that's what it is. So that's kind of the origin story of Bane. What do you think so far?
I'm shocked at how, like, kind of, like, just how, I guess I would say, sympathetic of a character. Like, the more I learned about his backstory, it's like, he, was in a tiny baby jumpsuit, and then they were basically like, here's the world's most insane meth, and for him to, like, come back from that, I'm like, that's kind of, I see what you say about him being like, oh, he's kind of more of an anti-hero as time goes on. Pretty cool guy. Totally not cool with him breaking backs, but pretty cool guy.
Well, there's even a series, one of his other side comics that really shows, like, who he is he saves this little girl from these people, hands him back to the parents. The parents are like, who are you? Like, how can we pay you back? Like, what's your name? And he basically turns to them and is like, just tell him Batman saved you.
Aw.
That's who I am, Batman. Oh. Yeah. Like, he doesn't want, like, he's a very, like, the character's way more complicated than people give him credit for.
I see that now.
Love him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into powers and abilities. So starting out, Venom usage. So Bane uses the super steroid Venom, allowed him to temporarily enhance his physical functions to near superhuman levels, particularly his strength, endurance, and speed. His body senses and healing abilities are also augmented to a degree. Bane needs a periodic injection into himself with Venom to return these abilities, although overuse can result in temporary insanity. Like I said, when he used that concentrated dose and just lost his mind.
And, like, all I can picture is, like, imagine that's just a guy on, like, PCP. That's what that is. Like,
yeah.
But they're like, give it a cool name so it sounds kind of sexy. And it's like, nah, dog, that's meth. Like,
yeah, like you know creatine in that? The secret ingredient is meth.
100%. So kind of going off the Venom usage, enhanced strength is one of his powers and abilities. The primary effect of Venom is that it enhances strength to superhuman levels, depending on how much Venom is injected. Bane has been shown to be stronger than Batman even without the Venom, and while injected is able to bend thick steel. When Bane injects the maximum amount of Venom that is considered healthy into himself, he becomes capable of lifting 15 tons. He's ultimately capable of exceeding his limit, though not without temporarily losing control over himself. And again, that's just a guy on PCP.
Yeah. 100%. Like, Bane is just, like, yeah, he's a that's why I love, like, eventually when he does get rid of it. And then he's like,
I'm strong without it. And I'm like, there you go, little buddy.
And he is, like, he's a master martial artist. Like, this, like, he's no slouch. Like it said, he's stronger than Batman at his base.
Yeah.
Which Batman's not a slouch. Like, that guy's like peak human athlete.
It's like it was inside you all the time, B-Dog.
Exactly. Okay, so superhuman stamina. Under the effects of Venom, Bane can fight almost forever. As long as he can continue to pump Venom into his veins, he can continue fighting indefinitely. Well, on a single dose of Venom, Bane has fought many battles for many hours and never seemingly stopped. Yeah, PCP, man.
I'm just, the more I'm like, can we just, I mean, it's a cooler name, but... So superhuman durability as well. Under the effects of Venom, Bane can withstand powerful blows from metahumans, multiple bullets and explosions. With mere scratches and bruises, Bane has withstood extreme torment at the hands of his enemies.
Yeah, Bane is definitely, like, even without the Venom, this guy can take a beating and get back up. So, accelerated healing. Bane can also use his Venom as a form of medicine to heal from injuries, poisons, and diseases. Depending on how devastating the injury, Bane needs to inject a certain amount of Venom into himself. When faced with extreme wounds, such as many broken bones, excessive blood loss, or terminal poisons and diseases, Bane needs to inject an unhealthy amount of venom, which will cause him to temporarily go berserk in order to heal properly. Which is one of those, like, is the cure...
What's a healthy amount of venom, though, is what I want to know. That's like...
That's like
there's
saying...
a healthy amount of Drano that you can... have a little bit.
And it's also one of those, like, hearing that, it's like, especially how much he needs to do to heal certain things. It's like, is the cure worse than the ailment?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
is it worth it?
I could see that kind of outweigh pros and the cons and all that. Escapology. Bane is exceptionally skilled in the arts of escaping and infiltration, and has managed to break out of the Peñadero, which is arguably the most heavily fortified prison in the world, as well as various maximum security centers, including Blackgate and Arkham Asylum. So he's a sneaky boy.
So I do love when they introduced Bane in the 90s cartoon, because like this being like, oh, he escaped he snuck out of the most like secure prison ever. In the cartoon, they're like, yeah, he escaped this prison, and it's just multiple walls broken down.
I love it. It's not subtle, but it was an escape.
Yeah. I'm like
Kool-Aid Man, that noise.
Because I'm like, I know he basically faked his death to get out there in the comics and stuff, but like just in the cartoon, they're like, I mean, he could have just literally done that.
Oh, for sure.
So he also possesses genius-level intellect. Bane is also highly intelligent. In prison, he taught himself various scientific disciplines equal to the level of understanding of leading experts in those fields, making him a genius as well as one of Batman's most intelligent foes. Like we said, he's arguably one of the first characters to deduce who Batman was. Mm-hmm. That, like, yeah, mastermind genius, just not great at improv.
Yeah, which, there's book smarts and there's street smarts. And
yeah.
So you kind of got to... Some people just, great, book smart, very intelligent, but, throw them into a knife fight and...
They're going to let you cut that too.
Yes. Exactly. There you go. Kind of going off the genius level intellect, he does have the ability to speak multiple languages or multilingualism. Bane is fluent in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Dari, Cantonese, and Latin.
Yeah, he's multiple linguist. He's even used his Spanish in one of the cartoons. I remember Miss Martian's trying to read his mind. And he basically, the way he stops her is he just starts repeating like soccer scores in Spanish.
That is... Never mind.
What?
I don't know if that's a good bit. Don't worry about it.
Oh, come on. So he's also an expert in tactical analysis. He, like we said, he knew exactly how to find out who Batman was.
Yeah.
Who else has really done that?
Yeah, very good on the battlefield, figuring out, or at least planning ahead type strategies, maybe not in the moment.
Yeah.
Bane also possesses photographic memory. Bane has a photographic memory which borders on absolute total recall. This has allowed him to memorize the countless skills, disciplines, and facts that he taught himself over the years, which stands to reason. And like you said, like recalling those soccer scores, like that's that he just has that upstairs ready to go.
Right, just pulls it out of nowhere. It also explains, like, he's in charge of the venom supply. He's the one altering those chemicals and, like, making different versions of it. And that, like, you have to, like, he remembered the chemical compound from seeing it when they did the experiment at that point. That's insane. So also martial arts. Bane is a highly formidable combatant who has not only mastered but also created several forms of martial arts. Though less skilled than the likes of Batman, Bane's fighting ability combined with his peak strength and endurance makes him a highly formidable opponent for any non-meta and many meta-human foes. Which, yeah, you got that kind of power behind being an expert in different martial arts, and even so much of an expert in fighting, you created your own styles.
Yeah, and then, throw that on top of everything else he has going for him. Just being jacked anyway, and then the venom. It's like, well, good luck, I guess, to everybody else in the room.
It's one of those, I remember I was, like, thinking about, like, if I had to fight Bane, first off, no, I'm gonna try to run.
I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to run. He's gonna grab me.
I don't think like spinal fractures are like concussions. Like the first one's free. I don't want any more, so I'm
Right.
solid. So this last point
It's more of a weakness.
It's more of a weakness, but I just laughed a little bit when I got to the bottom of the list of like superpowers and it just said drug addiction and I was like, oh no, I don't know that's. So yeah, clearly Bane does have a substance abuse issue. Bane has a dependence on his precious steroid venom. So yeah, that's kind of, I mean, especially when you consider the fact that if you take venom out of the equation, he's still pretty like hefty to go up against.
Yeah. Definitely
That's
a
why
guy.
I'm like, good for him that he kicked the habit. Like,
Right.
You had the power all along.
Definitely a dude that if you're gonna go up against him, you better come correct.
Yeah, for sure.
I do love the drug addiction is on there because I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. I also find it weird because like the venom is shown in the comics and the cartoons, like it alters his body. That like he goes from like this like a guy about my size to suddenly he grows a couple inches and his muscles expand. It upsets me that they didn't decide to go realistic and just be like, should we just have this guy with flabby skin when he's not on the venom? Because the amount of people I've met who kicked steroids, that's kind of what happens.
Although I guess if you had like healing abilities, the elasticity in your skin would probably bounce back.
Ooh, I didn't think about that.
Or he just has a fantastic skincare routine.
Keep it nice and tight. Okay, so that's it for powers, and let's get into his media. This is always a fun one. Okay, so in other media, TV, live action. In the second part of the Elseworld crossover in the Arrowverse, his mask from The Dark Knight Rises is seen with other villain trophies in Arkham Asylum, which is kind of cool. Like get a little bit of a shout out. Also, some of his venom is seen in the Batwoman episode in the Batcave, which that was a real dark episode when you found out like, oh, Bruce is straight up murdering people. Like
They're just tired.
They're just tired.
Just taking a little nap. They're all tuckered out from fighting Batman.
Yeah. So in live action, he also appears in season 5 of Gotham, played by Shane West, who is a army friend of Jim Gordon. I remember when I heard about that, and I was immediately upset. I have not watched Gotham. I know some of you fans are not going to be happy. I have not watched Gotham, and I have not watched the Arrow shows. I've watched Flash, but I'm not going to watch a Batman knockoff show. If you want to do Batman, just do a Batman show.
Fair.
Also, it completely just avoids his story. It's like, because Gotham's about like when Bruce is a teenager, before he even becomes Batman. Why is Bane in here?
Yeah, that's true.
Like everything you just read, like why?
Makes no sense because he was mostly in prison.
He was mostly in prison, and the only reason he came to Gotham is he's like, that man in Batsuit, I'm gonna break that man. It scared me. He scared me. I break things.
Oh, that's spooky.
I break things that scare me.
Can you imagine Bane in a spirit Halloween?
Oh, God.
Just destroys the store.
Halloween's banned in his country.
No bets. I don't know why he was Russian just then, but he was. Oh, God.
Okay, so you want to take the animation?
You got it, buddy. So as far as animation on television, DC Animated Universe, Batman the Animated Series, The New Batman Adventures, Superman the Animated Series, and Batman Beyond. He's been in all those. He was also in the 2004 series The Batman, The Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, Harlequin, DC Superheroes. Oh, gosh, I fucked
DC
it up.
Superhero Girls.
Yeah, you got it.
And Teen Titans
And
Go.
Teen Titans Go, yes.
I will say, every time I'm watching any of the animated series, all I'm thinking is I'm like, if they don't have an episode with Bane, I'm going to be very upset at this series. And the Harlequin version of him, arguably my favorite. Because they kind of just made, like, first off, the Harlequin show is amazing. It's a show where if you imagine Harley Quinn wrote a parody of all the characters, that's what they are. And Bane is no better.
You've shown me clips from that, and it's pretty great.
Right? Like they all just abuse Bane. And I'm like, it is funny because he is a character I imagine like smarter, more socially not awkward people would probably make fun of in front of him.
Yeah. Poor Bane.
And then you just break him. So other series, he was parodied in South Park. Wait, what? Oh
yeah, I vividly have that like image of him from South Park in my head. Yeah,
when they all get the masks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
go after the UPS guys. Okay, I forgot about that.
Good stuff.
Okay.
So as far as film, in live action film, he was in Batman and Robin. He was also in The Dark Knight Rises, which I think we all probably remember the most, that second one.
I was wondering what would break first, your spirit or your body.
So those ones I think everybody's pretty familiar with as far as it goes.
I was going to say, you all can generally tell when I've watched that movie because I immediately just start quoting Bane all day.
Yes.
Oh, you think darkness is your ally. I will say, because the Batman Robin one, most accurate live action portrayal as far as looks. Like, because they do the mask, they do the tubes. Like, he looks like they pulled him straight out of the comics. But then they were like, what if we just made him dumb?
Yeah.
Like, he's like a dumb, roided out guy that Poison Ivy uses to fight for her. And I'm like, first off, Bane would never. Bane would never be somebody's... Yeah. And that. But I will say, like, if they had combined... Because The Dark Knight Rises is the most accurate as far as who he is as a character. And personality-wise. If we could have just combined them.
Yes. As far as animation goes, he was in Superman vs. Batman, Public Enemy, Justice League Doom, Lego Batman, the movie, award-winning, DC Superheroes Unite, Batman Unlimited, Mechs vs. Mutant, the Lego Batman movie, Batman Ninja, Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's a thing that I didn't know existed, and I think I'm better for it.
The Batman Ninja one, I highly recommend. It's a trip.
I can imagine.
They're in feudal Japan.
Of course they are.
With Joker.
Naturally.
It's a good watch. Okay, so let's get into video games. So he is in the Lego Batman 1, 2, and 3, which, we have very few characters that don't make an appearance in those. So appears in all Arkham games except Arkham Knight, but his teddy bear and Titan Canister appears in the GCPD lockup. Which, I didn't know he had a teddy bear. His teddy bear in there? I'm going to have to replay that game. So he is in both the Injustice games, which he's a fun character to play. Not my favorite character to play, I will say. He's a difficult one to use his abilities.
I could see that. There's a lot going on.
Right? So he appears as a boss in Batman and Robin and Batman Chaos in Gotham. He's in the DC Universe Online game, Young Justice Legacy, and Batman: The Enemy Within. Which a lot of these games I have not heard of the last two that I just said.
Young Justice Legacy sounds a little bit familiar. I feel like I've seen some playthroughs of it, but couldn't really say for sure.
Fair. Okay, so and that's what we got for Bane. And I guess I'll ask the question I ask every week. You a fan?
I learned a lot about Bane in here, and I would have to say I'm a fan. Like I said, the whole backbreaking thing's a little bit of a touchy subject for me currently, but despite that, he seems like an okay guy. I'd hang out with him if he just stayed away from my spine.
And I mean, clearly before we even got in this episode, you probably knew I've always been and always will be a fan of Bane. For anyone that's still listening, you got something out of this? enjoyed the episode, or even liked the character before from a movie, comic, cartoon, hell, even that t-shirt that you saw one time, you're a fan too. If you want to jump on this train, why not subscribe and share with a friend? d-rael out. Y'all keep riding them rails.